Hello and welcome here on Random Rotation. Like many others all around the planet, I'm currently living the isolation life. Don't worry, I'm fine. It's totally okay. But nevertheless, or maybe even because of that, I decided to post a new video here at least once a week. And looking for topics I can safely work on without necessarily having to be with people, I decided for a rather classic random rotation video this week. That means turning on the computer and starting a quick screen recording session right now. Specifically, I'd like to compare the stabilization of video clips in Premiere Pro and DaVinci Resolve today. You know that, of course, because you're not stupid and you can read video titles. For this demonstration, I'm using the most current versions of both programs and footage from last Monday's video. If you haven't seen this yet, you're welcome to do so after finishing this one. Let's start our journey in DaVinci. You can find the function via the inspector here at the top right. Double-clicking the stabilization tab opens the options. Extremely easy to understand and use, in my opinion. Please do not be confused. The effect is not yet applied, even if this switch seems to indicate this. To really activate it, you first need to click the stabilization button. But before doing so, select your mode: perspective, similarity, or translation, and off you go. Whenever you change something, click stabilize again to restart the analysis. It is best to start with the perspective mode. If the result does not look good, you can try one of the other modes. Sometimes that helps. In order to avoid ugly black edges that you currently cannot see because the zoom function is activated, you have to allow the effect to zoom into your material. Let's check. Here are ugly black edges. So I would definitely recommend activating this option every time. Of course, you lose some quality, but if your footage is not shaking like crazy, that loss is often hardly noticeable. And if you know from the start that you want to stabilize your footage in post, you can counteract this quite easily by simply working with the best possible recording quality that is available to you. And if you want the camera to behave as if it had stood on a tripod, you have to activate camera lock. In this case, the 3 control sliders at the bottom get deactivated. Cropping ratio indicates how far you can zoom into the material, and thus determines how hard the stabilization can work at all. At a value of 1, there is no stabilization happening, and the lower the value, the harder the stabilization kicks in. With smooth and strength, you then refine your result. To be honest, I never really touched these. And that's it, pretty straightforward. In Premiere, it's a bit different. Here, the warp stabilizer effect has to be dragged onto the clip, and then Premiere takes care of the processing in the background. But be aware, that only works if your clip has the correct frame rate, otherwise you'll get an error message. In this case, I have a 25p timeline, but my video clip has 100 frames per second. Don't worry, we'll make it work. First, the video has to be reinterpreted. Other frame rate, 25 FPS, go. Or, option number 2, you create a nested sequence. The effect can then be applied and works normally. And now Premiere can do its magic. Most of the effect looks quite similar to DaVinci. At the very top you'll find an Analyze button below the different options. Compared to DaVinci, Premiere has one more option to choose from when it comes to the stabilizing methods. That option is called Subspace Warp. There are also more possibilities to manually adjust your settings. For example, a detailed analysis can be applied on top. But as I said, it looks all very similar. And now let's have a look at the different results I was able to achieve. So that brings us to my conclusion. In general, the stabilization of both tools is pretty useful. Personally, I often find that camera movements look better, more realistic when there's no post-stabilization involved at all. And I honestly don't mind one or the other wiggle. But that's just me. And I also do not want to tell you that I never used this effect before, and I sure will at some point. Yeah, there's always the perfect tool for every task, right? That's it for this week. I hope you liked this episode, and if so, it does not hurt, I promise. Hope to see you all next week. Stay safe, stay healthy. Bye for now.